The tide is turning for the New York Jets, with several players set to take on bigger roles. Tonight, I will be joined by Florida State football expert TJ Pittinger of the Double Fries No Slaw podcast to discuss exactly what we can expect from our young stars. So, let's get fired up.
Rickie, New York is about to go live. We've been through hell, but we still survive. So call it now. I want all the smoke. I'm here to give fans a reason to hope. They continue to build, and soon enough, the Jets will be winning. Now let's get fired up.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me. If you have not already, please subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to know when we're going live and make sure you're not missing any of the great content we have coming up. And while you are here, please hit that like button as hard as you can. All right, so there are more New York Jet YouTube shows than I can possibly sit here and name. Jake Asman, Green Bean, Jet Central, Boy Green, Dylan Terraman, Buffalo Jet. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But there are also many really good Florida State content creators. My guest tonight is the very first FSU content guide that I started watching on YouTube. His channel, Double Fries No Slaw, is a must-watch for any true Seminoles fan. The link for his show is in the description for this video. So please join me in welcoming TJ Pittinger.
Hey, man.
How's it going, man? Good. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. And, here in the Jets community, everybody looks at me like I'm the Florida State expert. But guys like you are the real experts. I probably wouldn't know half of what I know if it wasn't for listening to guys like you that can put a lot more time into it than what I'm able to. That being said, I mean, I know you're not in Tallahassee. I believe you're closer down to where I am in Tampa.
Yeah.
But I had family that lived in Tallahassee. My mother lived there, up until she passed. My brother still lives there, and I got a half brother that lives there. So, my mom lived right off of Tennessee Street. So you could literally go right from her house right up to the campus. I would go with my brothers. We'd go to Bullwinkle's, right across from the campus and watch the games. And so, I've got a lot of great memories, of going to Doak and watching the Seminoles.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. It hasn't been a lot of fun these last couple of years, but it's always a good time. And I'm actually, it's Thursday night. I'm actually heading up there Saturday afternoon to go watch baseball and softball. So I'm up there pretty often, but yeah, I'm in the Tampa area, and I always have a good time up in Tallahassee.
Yeah, me too. And the last couple of years have been a little bit rough, but hey, you know what? Time to go to work. I got my work shirt on, and man, like I feel bad for Coach Mike because everybody's getting on him so bad. But I mean, this is the same guy that coached us to an undefeated season a couple of years ago. I just think for whatever reason, maybe our recruiting hasn't been quite as good. But that being said, let me see if I can find the graphic. Over the past 6 years, the Jets have drafted guys from Florida State 5 times. So, And we have a rich history with the Jets, with Florida State players, going back to when I first became a Jets fan. Marvin Jones and Lavernius Coles, Leon Washington, Antonio Cromartie, and then more recently, LaMarcus Joyner, Dalvin Cook, Jordan Travis, Jermaine Johnson. I mean, there's quite the list of players that have come from Florida State. I had hoped to have you on sooner, but Jermaine was injured, and then when Jordan Travis came, unfortunately, he never really recovered enough to play for us. So now with Azareyeh here and Darrell Jackson here, it seemed like a perfect time to bring you in. But dude, the quarterback topic is always going on with Jets fans, as we still need our franchise quarterback. I just wish we would have got a chance to see Jordan play here. He gave me some of my best memories, and the one play that I'll never forget is the touchdown run against the Gators, and the exact one I'm talking about.
Oh yeah,
I think he made a guy on defense miss at least once on that run, and I'm happy for him what he's doing now. His show that he's doing with his brother, the Travis Take Two, is awesome. Wish him nothing but the best. But yeah, man, I wish we could have seen him here like we did in college. And also Keon Coleman's first game that they played in Orlando, I got to go to.
Yeah. I guess LSU. I was there. That was a fun one.
Yeah, it was awesome, and crazy the way that things turned out, but a lot of good memories there. Moving on to the guys that are here now, though. Last year, Azareyeh Thomas was a rookie. He didn't become a starter until like week 8, but once he did, he was super sticky in coverage. Really good big press man corner, and kind of carried over from what he was doing in college. I mean, he was locking guys up really well, and then unfortunately got hurt, and we missed him for the last part of the season. But I'm expecting him to take a big leap this year, and being a Florida State guy, give us your impressions of Azareyeh and what you think Jets fans can look forward to from him this year.
Yeah, I just think his physical profile is everything that you would want in your cornerback 1 and cornerback 2. Like, I think he absolutely has all the tools to get there. I think it's the mental side of things, because being young does take a little time to get used to the NFL. At certain positions, translate a little easier, running back, wide receivers maybe in that vein too. But corner's tough, and especially with how often, it's very, the NFL is very geared toward offense right now. And so it would be tough for a lot of, rookies to come, I almost said true freshmen, but rookies to come in and play right away. I do think that his length, the physicality that he possesses, you talked about him being sticky. Yeah, he's really good in press man coverage, or has shown the ability to be really good in press man coverage. Like, obviously, there are wide receivers out there that kind of create matchup problems for everybody. I think he's pretty quick. I think recovery speed is something that does stand out for him. And, when you're playing in the ACC, as opposed to playing on Sundays, you see a lot of that come through a lot more. Now, as a rookie and the guy that's getting picked on in the league, that's a little bit different ball game that you're playing at that point. But I think that he has all of the physical tools to be a really good corner for several years in this league. And so to me, it's, can the mental side of that catch up, right? Because a lot of guys have great traits. You don't get drafted if you don't have great traits. So you've got to do something to separate yourself, and distinguish yourself as like, yeah, I am going to be that guy. I am going to be the guy that plays for 5, 6, 7+ years at this spot, this coveted spot in the NFL. But he does have all the physical tools to do it. So I'm excited to see what year 2 does look like under him, because like you said, when he got in there, he was mixing it up and he was playing a lot.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the Jets, we had a historically bad year last year, a year that actually saw us go an entire season without a single interception. And the day that I thought that streak was going to be broken, ball popped up in the air, Azareyeh caught it, and I'm like, hell yeah, there's our first pick of the year. And then they said, no, he stepped out of bounds. And I mean, there must have been one blade of grass painted white that was bent over that his foot touched, because I mean, it didn't look like it to me. And I was absolutely livid. But yeah, I'm expecting big things from him. It's funny because, like, dude, I hate the Gators. And I remember, like, when Rickie Pearsall was coming out, like, all the draft pundits were talking about how great he was, and we shut him down in his last game. Renardo kept him without a catch, and then at the very end of the game, we gave up one reception to him, and it was Azareyeh that gave up that reception. I was so mad at him. I was like, damn you, Thomas, what are you doing? Because I really wanted to hold him catchless. Speaking of Gator, which, dude, I'm a Gator hater. However, one of the other shows that's probably the biggest and best Jets show that's out there, the Jake Asman show. His producer is Gator. Sounds funny that I would be friends with a guy named Gator, but he got his name from Gator McCluskey, who was a Seminole. And I'll bring that up again later, because he actually had asked me, do the Seminoles have any kind of like Burt Reynolds memorabilia or anything that you can get? And I didn't have an answer for him right away. However, he makes these intros for Jake's shows for callers. And before I had a show, when I was just a caller, he made an intro for me where he impersonates me. He's got online and found the exact hat that I wear. He was using my backdrop that I originally used for my show. And here it is.
I'm Rickie, New York, and I love to smoke. Florida State, I really love Florida State. Hey, easy, Thomas, you know it's from Florida State. At any rate, I call into smoking debate. Florida State, I really love Florida State. At any rate, thanks for taking my call, Jake.
And that is kind of how I became the Florida State guy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Speaking of which, this year we drafted Darrell Jackson Jr. And Dylan Terraman, who's a friend of mine and a friend of the show, actually went to the Senior Bowl. And he told me, I got a story for you. I got to meet Darrell Jackson while I was there. And the first thing he said was like, dude, this guy is so huge. It's just like unbelievable. And he said he went up to shake his hand and he wanted to give him like the nice, firm, manly handshake,
Impossible.
Because he's such a big guy. And he said, Rick, when he shook my hand, he said his hand wrapped completely around mine to where like his finger and thumb like overlapped, like crazy. 11-inch hands. He's got an 86-inch wingspan. Like, I'm 5'8", which that's 68 inches. So his wingspan is literally a foot and a half longer than I am tall, which is just insane to me. But, being that stopping the run has been a problem for us in recent years, I think he's a perfect addition to what we're looking to do. And give me your thoughts on him, a guy that we've seen, do really well in that area for Florida State the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think with any defensive lineman, you're probably tempering some expectations just because of how long they take to truly develop and get that size. And technique is obviously really important. What makes him so special is how big he already is and how well he can move for that size. Like 350-pound guys don't move as well as he does often. And he's incredibly athletic for how massive of a human being he is. At Florida State, people go back and watch his tape. Honestly, it's not this last year, especially. it's not incredibly impressive because all he did this year was eat up double and triple teams. Like he was really all Florida State had on the defensive line. And so he didn't have a crazy amount of tackles. He didn't have a crazy amount of pressures or sacks or anything like that. But he was so instrumental, not that we were great at stopping the run, but he was so instrumental at, taking up 2 and 3 offensive linemen at a time. Like there are, just type in Darrell Jackson double team screenshot and you'll see SEC offensive lines or really good offensive lines like Miami, who I think had the best in the country, or Clemson or big time opponents that we played, putting 2 and 3 guys on him at times. And I think that, he is a space eater for sure, which may not translate to him having, an insane number of tackles. I do think it opens gaps up for linebackers. I think it occupies offensive linemen. And again, the biggest kind of concern that you would typically have with a defensive lineman is, well, can they get up to size? Like, will their size be enough? Can they put on enough weight? Again, he's still a rookie, so I don't expect him to come in and just light things up in a massive way. But I do think that he can contribute pretty early in that, in a rotation. I would be pretty surprised if he may come in and, you may know this better than me, just knowing the depth chart. But I could see him getting in as a very early down run defender, eating up space, frees up linebackers, rotates at defensive tackle, and really growing into that role because his athleticism and his size are a combo that is not often found. Not often found, certainly at the college level. The NFL is certainly a little more likely to find, but he is freakishly athletic for his size, and I think that'll help a ton in the role the Jets want to use him for.
Absolutely. And like you said, the size is already there. Recently, our coach at rookie minicamp was speaking about him in particular and said he can actually see us using him as a big end, as a 3-4 defensive end, since we're running a 3-4, which that really got my attention. I was like, man, that's not the role that I pictured him in. But we do have, Tavondre Sweat, who's another huge human being in the middle. But man, that'll be a pretty imposing front with 2 guys that big up there stopping the run. So yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. And like you said, he took on a lot of double and even triple teams this past year. And I think a lot of that was due to the fact that, our pass rush wasn't what it has been in past years. Have a Jermaine Johnson or a Brian Burns really this year. And so I think teams were able to focus on him a little bit more. But, like you said, the sack numbers weren't really there. But against the run, you want to talk about the immovable object. That's kind of what he was in the middle. So, yeah. I really like the skill set that he brings and what he can offer to the team. Another guy that's here right now, this past draft cycle, there was a consensus top 3 wide receivers, one of which was Jordan Tyson, who had a lot of injury concerns. Well, who was playing all that time that he was injured? Who were they throwing the ball to? Malik McClain. And as soon as I heard the name, I was like, oh, I remember him. And we just had rookie mini camp. He caught 4 or 5 really nice passes from Cade Klubnik during that. And 6'5" guy that runs a 4.42 40. That's a guy that I think could carve out a role for himself, particularly in the red zone. It would be nice to have a big target like that. Now, brought him in as an undrafted free agent. So, his chances aren't as good as maybe some others, but I really like I said, the size and speed combo compared to some of the other guys we have. I really think this kid can make a role for himself on this team.
Yeah, I remember Malik McClain caught a huge touchdown against, I think it was UNC, the year that we played them in 2021 when they were a top 10 team. We went up to North Carolina, and he had a huge touchdown against them where he just got behind the defense and made a great play. That speed is real. I think he also had a touchdown in, maybe it was the Georgia Tech game in 2022. And then when he then he transferred out to Penn State, and then I think he ended up at Arizona State back with Dillingham. And spot guy. I think he's got a very, like you said, undrafted, so he's going to have a phenomenal, summer and I want to say fall camp, but training camp or preseason. But he's going to have to make some big time splash plays. It might be kind of in a special teams type role just to get on a roster, but he does have a really unique skill set with the size and the speed. He can go up and get a ball, and he can also take the top off the defense. Now, NFL defenses are faster without a doubt, but if you kind of catch a matchup, put him in the slot or just somewhere that you're not expecting a 6'4", 6'5" guy to be, he can certainly make a difference. Again, this Jets team, not to rub salt in the wound, but this Jets team should have a lot of, openings for guys to, get in and make a difference if they can kind of stand out. So he might be a little bit of a long shot, to make a opening day roster, but I don't think it's impossible with the skill set he brings and kind of where he's at right now.
Right on. And, you mentioned speed. So I'm going to take a little peek to the future. And when our coach first got here, Aaron Glenn, he talked about how speed can change the game. And, it can't be taught. It can't be coached. Guys either have it or they don't. And some guys just have that true game-breaking speed. And he talked about adding that element to the team. And, dude, when I think of speed and I think of wide receivers, I think of Mekhi Danzy. I've already got my draft wish list for next year, and he is right there at the top of it. I've been telling anybody who will listen, the second that kid steps on the field, he's going to be the fastest guy in the NFL.
Yeah. He is insanely fast. I mean, he took an end around against Bama for a touchdown on a run. He actually scored in the first 3 games of the year this season for Florida State. Florida State's offense kind of went stagnant in the second half of the year, but he just put up monster numbers. And because, he had longs of, 58 yards in one game, 35 in another. There were times where Castellanos couldn't even see over the line and would just say, Danzy will run under this, and would just throw it up. And then he'd have to wait on the ball to get to him because he was so far down the field. So yeah, his top end speed is really impressive. What impressed me the most about him last year was, the speed was there. He's a national champion track runner. There, he's going to be we talk about the difference in ACC speed and NFL speed, and it is valid, but he's a legit national champion in track. So if he gets the NFL this year, next year, whatever, next year, the year after, whatever, he will certainly make a big impact from a speed perspective. But he started out as a running back and has really done a good job of moving to that wide receiver role and going up and making some contested catches. Now, he's not Randy Moss by any means. I'm not telling you that. But there were some times last year that he went up and made catches that you were like, I just was hoping you could run under stuff because you're super fast and we'll get you on end arounds and stuff like that, kind of gadget play you. But he was a legit wide receiver last year and gave them a real option when balls need to be caught over the middle or tough sideline stuff or just going up over a guy and getting it. His athleticism really shined through. And it's not just the speed, right? You'd understand if he was just a speed demon burner and he was going to beat everybody down the field. He actually showed a lot of athleticism and pretty good hands for a team that needed a wide receiver to step up. And they had Robinson, which was great, but to have a second option that wasn't just a speed burner was a big deal.
Well, speaking of New York Jet wide receivers who started out as running backs, like Lavernius Cole's one of my favorites. Also a guy that started out as a running back. But, dude, when I think about Danzy, I think about that Kent State game where he had 173 yards in the first quarter. It was just crazy. Every time you turned around, he had gotten behind the defense. And I think it was a 48-yarder and then a 54-yarder and then the end around the that you were talking about. He had one of those in that game where he took it like 50 something yards for a touchdown. And that speed is absolutely scary. I know you're a Florida State guy, but you're much more tuned into college than NFL and than I am. So here's a question. What are your thoughts on Cade Klubnik? Did your opinion change after the bad season he had last year, or what are your thoughts on him, being that we see him every year with Clemson?
Well, the answer to the second part is yes, my opinion changed on Cade because I thought he was QB1 going into the season. So that maybe you don't want my answer on this. But man, what he showed at the end of 2024, late in the year against, SMU, some of the big games they played, and then, what he did in the playoff game against Texas and nearly leading Clemson back there against a team that they were significantly undermatched in that matchup. I thought Cade was going to be great this year, and things just didn't work out. I mean, obviously Clemson fired their offensive coordinator, Garrett Riley, and brought in Morris to work with Dabo again. So I do have some, and I know the question was about Clemson. I do have some optimism that Clemson will look better offensively, but Cade, I wonder how much of it is really like where he struggled with regression and where the offense was just so predictable, which is what all my Clemson buddies tell me, and really just watching them, you know what they're doing every play. I wonder how much of that hurt him. He's a guy that I think can make all the throws, like doesn't lack for arm strength, understands plays, understands recognition. I do think there's a mental block there, and so I don't think that there was enough talent to overcome the coaching. But man, he was an absolute gamer. You put him in a game against Texas where they're severely undermatched, and he made plays over and over and over again. He was, again, going into the year, I thought, and again, my quarterback picks weren't very good last year, but I thought he and Drew Aller at Penn State were going to be two of the better quarterbacks in college football. Now they both kind of stunk. So it didn't work out the way I thought it would. But the way that both those guys finished 2024, you really thought that they had a chance to take a big leap. And you did see regression from both. You obviously saw frustrating play from both teams in general, not just Clemson, but Penn State. I think Cade can be good because I think he does have all the talent. He's got to be in the right system. He's got to develop more. He's got to get with a good quarterback coach. He's got to be in a good situation. And I think Cade can be fine. I'm not telling you, this guy's first ballot or anything like that, or he's going to be a starter one day. Right. But I think he can be really serviceable. And I think he can, work his way into a starting job. I don't know, maybe, but you never know when a guy gets an opportunity because somebody goes down in front of them what their thoughts are or what their play is going to be. But I've always liked Cade. I was a little disappointed in how he played this year, but again, how much of that's the coordinator, how much of that's just the team being a dumpster fire. They lost to Duke like 46-45. You ain't blaming Cade for putting up 45 points. The team was abysmal, but I didn't even think his play was terrible. It was a little regression, but I do like Cade.
Interesting that you brought up the Duke game because that is my pick for the Jets franchise quarterback would be Darian Mensah going into next year. I'm really a big Mensah fan. I think he's going to do really well in Miami. But as far as Klubnik goes, the offense was predictable. I know that he struggled with two different injuries last year, and the offensive line did him no favors really. And so there were a lot of factors that went into it, but when I listened to him speak this past weekend, he's like, I'm kind of thankful for everything I went through last year because it taught me how to really deal with adversity. And he just gave some really mature answers as far as the way that, the end of his college career unfolded and what it means. And I mean, we got him as a 4th round pick. I think everybody has looked at it at this point anyway, as if we got our career backup for the next 6-7 years in the 4th round, that's a win. Yeah. And, but I think that he could possibly be more than that, but that's kind of the role that I see for him right now. But like you said, he can make all the throws. He's a really smart kid. The fact that the Jets, moved up 18 spots to take him, kind of jumping the Denver Broncos, which, apparently his college roommate was Caleb Nix, the Broncos quarterback Bo Nix's younger brother.
Oh, I don't realize that.
And so they, you know, between that and the fact that our GM Darren Muji was with Denver prior to coming over here, Bo Nix is coming back from injury. Like, the Jets had a lot of information that Denver was interested in Cade, and so they made the move to trade up and get him. And so that shows me right there they definitely saw something in him, and they talked about like how well he did in the workouts. And I think whether it was just similar verbiage or, you know, the offensive system, you know, Frank Reich's being similar to what he ran in college, for whatever reason, it seemed like he was able to pick up on it rather quickly, which those are all good signs. So, you know, fingers crossed, you know, hopefully we can see him develop it into a really good, solid player for us. Real quick before I move on, anybody who calls in this month, every single caller this month gets entered into our May giveaway, and it's going to be a Rickie New York Live prize pack, one of our new D'Angelo Pons shirts, Rickie New York hat, your choice of another shirt, and I also have a special Flaming Skull shirt that I'm going to throw in there for you guys. And dude, the D'Angelo Pons shirts just came in today, and I got one right here. And so the Jets had a fantastic draft, and you know, pass rusher David Bailey, number 2 overall, tight end Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon, and then moved back into the first round and took Omar Cooper from Indiana. Then with our third round pick, our second round pick rather, we ended up taking D'Angelo Pons, his teammate. And dude, then late in the draft, you know, we got Cade Klubnik, Darrell Jackson, which I was really surprised Darrell Jackson was still there when he was. That was a terrific value. But then in the 6th and the 7th round, in the 6th round, we got Inez Cooper, the guard from Miami, who you mentioned, you know, they were one of the better offensive lines in the country last year. And Darrell Jackson had played with him in Miami. Then they played against each other at, you know, Florida State and Miami, and had some really great battles. And that's a guy that I think could end up being a starter for us eventually. That was a real steal. And then in the 7th round, we got safety VJ Payne, and like, both of those guys were ranked in like the 120s consensus, and we got them at like pick 228 and like at the very end of the draft. So tremendous value. And I think with this draft class, you know, we're really, really set up to turn this thing around. And I'm looking for a much more competitive year this year.
I love I mean, you mentioned Bailey, you know, Pons. I mean, those guys are so fun to watch. I mean, Bailey was unreal. And then, you know, Pons for Indiana this year, you know, I know we talked about Thomas at DB, but I think that watching Pons play at Indiana might have been my favorite defensive back of the entire like season in college football. He was so much fun to watch. And so, listen, I know that the Jets, you know, not the best year last year. They've got a lot of guys that I think are going to be a lot of fun to watch this season.
Yeah, it definitely. And, you know, obviously with Indiana doing what they did last year, you know, everybody was talking about Mendoza, but like, dude, we, you know, ending up with both Pons and Omar Cooper.
Yeah.
Omar Cooper, like play style wise, he reminds me a lot of Lavernius Coles, you know, physical wide receiver, you know, doesn't go down on first contact, you know, always fighting for extra yardage, so twitchy. Like I like what he brings. And D'Angelo Pons, even though he's a smaller guy, dude, he's a dog. He just fights every play. And, you know, kind of like, you know, Jets great Darrell Rivas, who he locked everybody down, even in practice. Like, Pons takes it personal. Like anytime he gives up a reception, he takes it really personal. He doesn't want anybody catching anything. And yeah, dude, I love what he brings to the table.
They're going to be, like I said, they're going to be fun to see this year. And I love, Cooper was fun too. Yeah. Their offense, man, they were, I mean, they had a lot of fun pieces. And that's why they went 16-0 and won the national championship, but they were a ton of fun last year.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm looking forward to, this Jets team we've kind of had a complete makeover. And like last year was it was like Murphy's Law, like anything that could happen did. And down the stretch, I know we gave up, a historical amount of point differential, but we were missing two of our top three corners, our best pass rusher, our running back. Like by the end of the season, we were injured to the point where giving up the points we did really wasn't a surprise, but it didn't do a first year coach any favors. And I think a lot of the guys that he counted on to be leaders, it turns out were the guys that kind of gave up first when things started to go south on us. And, I don't really fault him for that, because prior to getting here, all he knew about those guys is what he saw on tape. He didn't see the personalities or in the locker room how they react when things are going poorly. And I think it was a shock to him, but, no first year coach is going to turn over an entire roster in 1 year. And so we took our lumps last year, but just looking at all the different guys, be it free agents or the draft that we brought in this year, they're all just, real good, solid, physical, football players that kind of fit the mold of what he's looking to build. And so I'm really excited for this season. I'm excited for both teams, Florida State and the Jets. And I've got to pose this question to you because a couple of years ago, I had probably the roughest seasons I've ever had as a fan, both college and NFL wise. The Jets got Aaron Rodgers. He comes in. We think we got a real legit quarterback, and 4 plays in, he gets hurt and he's out for the year. Yep. And the whole year just kind of went down the drain. Conversely, with Florida State, Jordan Travis is leading them to an undefeated season and then gets hurt at the end of the year, and we end up getting left out of the playoffs anyway. Don't even get me started on that. But which do you think is worse? Is it worse to finally get your savior quarterback and have him last only 4 plays and watch the season go? Or is it worse to have an undefeated season and lose your quarterback at the end and still miss the postseason?
So it's not quite the same, but I kind of remember in 2017, Florida State had something happen similar to Aaron Rodgers going down. And it was when DeAndre Francois went down against Bama. And that was at the end of that game. But that game, going into it, it was a top 3 matchup. And I remember people saying the result of this game doesn't even matter because these two teams are going to see each other again in the playoff later this year. And, as long as one of them didn't get blown out. So all that. So, Florida State finished, I believe, 7-6 that year because they won the bowl game. So it was a disaster, but it wasn't like 2-10 disaster, right? Like it was bad. So as a Florida State guy, I've kind of experienced something like that with Rodgers, not to the same level, and then I've experienced the idea of like going 13-0, having to rebound from your quarterback going down and still finding a way to win the next 3 games, and then getting left out. That was 100 times worse. So I don't know exactly how it felt when Rodgers went down, but I do know how it felt when Francois went down in 2017. And I would take that 10 times out of 10 because from there, it's week 1. You regroup, you try and figure it out. Hey, what can we do to get a little better here or there? We won 6-7 games that year. There was some hope that you'd be okay. When we got left out of the playoff after fighting to win games and being told all you got to do is win and you're in, that was the worst. I don't even know if there's a sports feeling that has ever gotten anywhere close to that for me. Like I've seen my team lose championships. I've seen them get blown out of games. I was there when Georgia Tech blocked that field goal in 2015 and ran it all the way back. Like I've been there for a lot of the down moments. That was the absolute worst thing I've ever experienced as a sports fan. It was riding back from Charlotte in a van and watching the selection show and them leaving us out. So no matter what happens on the other side, that would certainly be my answer. Yeah,
that was so rough, and just I don't even want to get started on the committee, the way they make their decisions. And I get it, but, at the same time, we saw teams that their quarterback was hurt at the end of the year this past year, and they didn't get left out. So I don't know. It's it irritated me. And dude, I'll tell you what, I've got Jordan Travis Jets jerseys, Jordan Travis Jets hat. Like the day we drafted him, I bought the jersey, and I just like all the time I was constantly asking like, what's going on with him? What's going on with him? Because we just never got any news. And then, eventually he came out and announced his retirement. And dude, I was just heartbroken because he's such a good kid, man.
Yeah.
And I was a big DeAndre Francois fan as well. I'm glad you brought him up. But dude, out of all the quarterbacks we've had, like Travis is probably my very favorite Florida State quarterback. Just, combination of what he did on the field and his personality. He's just one of those guys that it's almost impossible not to root for when you're watching him.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a great kid. I've gotten a chance to interact with him a few times, and super humble and just a guy that would find ways to win. And yeah, the night he got injured was pretty brutal, and then it sucked to see him retire too. But I do like some of the stuff he's doing, since then, and wish him all the best. But yeah, he was so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I wish I could have got to interact with him. I'd like to meet him. I haven't been able to, there's a few guys from that team that I would have liked to have met. Fisk is another, but I'll tell you what, the one guy that I did get to meet was Jarian Jones. And dude, he was awesome to talk to. That's a really fiery guy. And he's doing well in Jacksonville, but I mean, you look, he's starting in Jacksonville. You got Renardo Green starting in San Francisco. Obviously, Verse and Fisk together with the Rams. Brian Burns, now one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. There's a lot of Florida State guys making names for themselves across the league.
Yeah.
So, hopefully we can add our guys, Azareyeh and Darrell Jackson to that list of guys that are making waves this coming season.
Yeah, no, that team, I mean, it was super special, and Jordan was a huge part of it. But, Benson was on that team. Johnny Wilson was on that team. Keon was obviously on that team. There's a lot of guys that made the league and, are balling out right now in the league. I know all those guys that I mentioned aren't, but that team was really special. And it still kind of stinks what got taken from them, but it is cool to see a lot of them have pretty cool NFL careers with, you mentioned Renardo and Jarian and Braden and Jared and those guys, like, all kind of crushing it. It's a lot of fun to watch now.
Yeah, it really is. And for me, I always get really pumped whenever I see the Jets draft a Florida State guy, because I already know what those guys can do, because, I watch them every Saturday. And I don't follow college as closely as I follow the NFL. When it comes to college, I'm a little bit more selective. Like, there's certain programs I watch, aside from the ACC teams, there's Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, LSU. There's like a few select teams that I watch all the time. But as time has gone on and I've gotten more and more into the draft and doing more and more draft content, like this past year, I think I evaluated like 183 different players, just sitting down watching tape. And dude, a lot of these draft guys, they do 300 plus players. And I wish that my day job afforded me enough time to do that, because I could do that full time. I'm planning on going to the Senior Bowl this upcoming year. That's one of my big goals for this year, where I can go and get an eye on the prospects myself. And so, everything that's going on right now, I'm looking really forward to this season, both college and NFL. With Florida State, we got the two twin brothers, on the defensive line. We've got, Chris Jones, a linebacker we brought in. I'm curious to see how he's going to do. That's a position I think that we really needed some help at. So hopefully he can contribute. But, dude, I'm looking forward to Wisner. I really want to see what Chroma can do this year. And then obviously we already talked about Dancy, Deuce Robinson, which, dude, I'm really surprised that Deuce Robinson didn't get more credit last year after the year that he had. Bolitnikov finalist, and I can't remember who we were playing at the time, but there was that one catch where it looked like he was hugging the defender. He reached around him and caught the ball behind his back. Was just insane. That was one of the more impressive catches that I've seen recently.
He's super fun, and I think he could have come out this year and chose to come back for one more year. So it'd be nice to see him put up another 1,000 yards and a handful of 7, 8, 9 touchdowns or something like that, and really help FSU's offense, because they'll need it. But he's a lot of fun for sure.
Absolutely, man. Really quick, I want to touch on this because the NFL schedule came out today, and I completely wasn't even thinking about that when I scheduled this show, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about it some. Opening up in week 1 against our former coach, Robert Saleh, that almost makes that like a must-win game. Our division opponents, which that's a good thing. We don't have to go to Miami super early in the year, so that's good. And then on November 22nd is the LA game, which I already checked my calendar, and it looks like I do not have to work that weekend. So I'm probably going to LA for a game this year. And I lived there for like a year and a half back in the late 80s. And so I'm probably going to go back to my old neighborhood and my old stomping grounds and hang out for a day or two, and then go to the game and get to meet Addison and Rick Kent and a lot of our great Jet fans that live out there. And that'll be awesome. That Rick Kent I've already met in person. Addison I have not met yet, but looking forward to meeting both of those guys. And that should be fun. That should be a fun trip.
You have to get some in and out while you're out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny where I live. Like when I went out there, listen, I was kind of crazy when I was younger. I think like my senior year in high school, I dropped out and went on tour with a rock band and went on my first U.S. tour. And so not exactly the path that most people would have taken, but I ended up one night, my parents were sending me to Newport, Kentucky to stay with some friends. And I ended up going to the airport, getting drunk, and deciding I don't want to go to Kentucky. I'm going to go to LA. Didn't know anybody. And flew out there, and I'm dragging it's the 80s. The guy says, "Where do you want to go?" And I was like, I want to go to the Sunset Strip. And he literally drove me to the strip and was going to drop me off on the sidewalk. And I was like, wait, I need a hotel. And so I start looking for a motel, and I found a really terrible, hole in the wall type hotel. And I go up and I was like, how much is it for a room? And the guy's like, oh, it's $110, or if you want Jim's room, it'll be $150. And I was like, Jim's room? What the hell is Jim's room? And he's like, that's the room where Jim Morrison stayed when he first came to Los Angeles. And Jim Morrison, also a Seminole, I was like, yeah, I'll take Jim's room. And dude, when you walk in, he wrote some poetry and signed his name on the wall. But over the years, everybody who stayed there has signed their name on the walls, and the walls are cool. Just literally covered. My name's up on that wall somewhere as well. But
that's epic,
man. It's a good time. And so I'm looking forward to going back. It's been a long time since I've been out there. And dude, you brought up Randy Moss earlier, started out with the Seminoles. A lot of people don't even realize that.
Yeah.
But dude, Jim Morrison, Burt Reynolds, just over the course of this conversation, there's so many different guys that we can tie into Florida State. Dude, awesome historic program. And our opening ceremony has got to be the best in college football.
Oh yeah, my kids love it. It never gets old. I never get tired of seeing it. I've been down on the field for it a time or two, and that's really cool to see. Like looking up at everybody doing the chomp and stuff. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it really is, man. I completely agree. I'll never get tired of seeing that. There's something about that, flaming spear and it getting planted that just gets me every time. And dude, I'll tell you what, when you're in Doak and it's like packed and the war chant gets going and all the arms are going, like, man, there's just nothing like that. And I gotta say, and of course I'm biased, but that's got to be one of the best, fan bases in college football, period. There's nothing like that experience at Doak. And similar to when you go to the Jet Stadium and you hear that Jets chant, it's like, you know what?
About it never gets old.
No, it really doesn't, man. Dude, thank you so much for coming on and taking some time to chat with me. And it's been awesome. Really good conversation. And dude, I just love talking ball, whether it's NFL or college. But at this time of year when there's only so much to talk about, it seems like all the different Jets channels are all kind of talking about the same thing. So it was awesome to have you come on and maybe give a little bit different perspective and tell the people something about at least our Florida State players that they may not be able to hear other places. So I really appreciate you coming on and doing that.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I like talk. Dude, I can sit here and talk football forever. So I appreciate it, dude. I thank you a ton for having me, and good luck this year, bud.
Absolutely, and you as well. Thank you so much. You want to go ahead and plug your channel, tell the listeners what you got coming up?
Yeah, so if you want FSU content, it's just Double Fries No Slaw. You can search it anywhere here on YouTube or just kind of wherever, and come check us out.
All right, man. Thank you so much, TJ. Have a great night, and I appreciate you, man. Look forward to doing this again sometime.
Thanks, buddy. You too.
All right. All right, guys, TJ Pittinger. I hope you guys really enjoyed that conversation. That was a ton of fun. Like I just said, maybe be able to have you guys hear something about some of our young players that you might not get on other channels. And TJ does an awesome job covering all things that are Florida State. As I said, that's, one of the very first Florida State channels that I started watching on YouTube. And he does a tremendous job. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to what our young guys can do this year. Not just our Seminole guys, but our draft class as a whole. And we're not done yet. We just signed Tim Patrick yesterday. Me, personally, if it was up to me, I would like to bring in another veteran kicker. I meant to mention this while TJ was on, but out of the veteran kickers that are out there, there is a former Seminole, Graham Gano. And I told this story last time, but I'll tell it again. A couple of years ago, I was watching a game with my best friend, Ed. And we're watching the game, and he's a Panthers fan. End of the game, only a couple of seconds left. They're at midfield. They can't convert the third down. They trot their kicker out there for what kind of looks like an impossible field goal, and he just gets disgusted. He throws all his stuff down and jumps up, and he's like, you know what? We just blew another game that we should have won. I'm disgusted. I can't even watch this shit. I'm over this. I can't do it anymore. And he's getting ready to storm out of the room. And right then, I jump up and I said, fuck that. He's from Florida State. He's going to make it. And Graham Gano drills a 63-yarder, and they win the game. And I called it. I was right. However, it didn't change his mind about his team. At any rate, like, dude, watching a guy kick a 63-yarder like that, and he's kicked a couple that long in his career, I wouldn't be opposed to taking a flyer on him. There's also Brandon McManus, Daniel Carlson. There are some decent veteran kickers that are out there. So I would like them to at least bring in one of those guys to compete. And who knows, maybe Cade York or the other guy that we have there right now, maybe Banjo has seen something in him. And if there's any coach on this team that I wouldn't question right now, it would be Chris Banjo. Our special teams were fantastic last year. So who knows? Maybe he's seen something in one of those guys that we haven't seen yet. And that's why they haven't brought in a kicker. But, dude, in today's NFL, a lot of games are decided by whether or not you make a field goal. Some games are so close that missing an extra point can be the difference in whether you win or lose. So, kickers are super underrated players, but very invaluable, like important players at the same time. So that's probably my biggest concern right now. So we'll see how that develops, but hopefully they've got that all stabilized and ready to go for this year. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Those of you watching here on YouTube, and for those of you listening on X. If you are listening on X, I encourage you to come on over here to YouTube, subscribe to the channel. That way you'll always know when we're going live and you'll never miss a show. Appreciate each and every one of you. You guys make this possible for me to be able to do this. And while you're here, please hit that like button as hard as you can. And I'll hang out for another couple of minutes in case anybody wants to call in. All callers this month are automatically entered into our May Mayhem giveaway, which is a Rickie New York Live prize pack. Includes our new D'Angelo Pons t-shirt, a Rickie New York hat, another Rickie New York Live shirt of your choice, and a special Flaming Skull shirt. And with that, we have our first caller of the night. What's happening, man?
Rick, what's going on, buddy?
How you doing, dude?
I'm all right, man. How you feeling about the schedule dropping? You feeling confident?
Yeah, you know what? All in all, I'm pretty happy with the schedule. Now, we do have a couple of tough games, Green Bay and the Bears right off the bat in that first month or so. But you know what? Green Bay is going to be without Micah Parsons for that game. They did not do particularly well when he was out of the lineup at the end of the year last year. So maybe that's a little bit of glimmer of hope for that one. But, dude, week 1 against Robert Saleh, perfect. Let's get them before they get a chance to really get acclimated and get rolling. You know what? Dude, just something about him. There was something about him even when we first hired him. It's like, I know that in San Francisco he was all fiery, but you know what? It seemed like he got more fiery and animated when he realized the cameras were on him. And it seemed like he played to the cameras a lot. And dude, I just remember having that shit season we have. And then right in the middle of it, we got to watch this fucking idiot doing his toothpaste commercial. And like as soon as that toothpaste commercial aired, he had the most punchable face in the United States. Like right that moment. I would like nothing better than to start his tenure off with a loss. And look, man, I was reading today, between the Jets and the Titans, there are 22 coaches and players that were either former Jets that are now on the Titans or the other way around. That's a lot, man. That's a lot. But if you look at them, Jermaine Johnson, John Franklin Myers, it's like he kind of tried to reassemble what he had here. And you know what? He couldn't win with those guys here. So Sala is kind of repeating his same mistakes, whereas Glenn is not. He completely overhauled the personnel. So, you know what? I wish I had a graphic where I could put the schedule up. Unfortunately, I can't share my screen because for some reason right now, whenever I try to share my screen, it shares the whole entire screen. So you're going to see my whole StreamYard set, like everything, and the schedule will be tiny. However, I will read it off to you, even though I can't put it up on the screen. Week 1, obviously, we've got, the Tennessee Titans, as I was just referencing. That is September 13th. September 20th is our home opener against the Green Bay Packers. Week 3, September 27th, the Detroit Lions. In week 4, we go to Chicago to play the Bears. Oh, these are all 1:00 games, by the way, in case I didn't say that. Week 5 is October 11th against the Cleveland Browns. Week 6, New England Patriots. Week 7, the Miami Dolphins. Week 8, we play the Raiders and Fernando Mendoza. Then we got the Chiefs. In week 10, we have the Buffalo Bills. Week 11, November 22nd, we go to LA, and I will be going to LA too. Week 12, the Dolphins again. Week 13 is our bye week. Then we have week 14, Denver Broncos is December 13th. December 20th, the Arizona Cardinals. That's an away game. Then we have the Patriots again. Our last home game in week 17 against the Minnesota Vikings. And in week 18, our last game on the road at Buffalo. Which, dude, over the past few years, we've only ended the year at home once. We always end the year on the road, and I'm not going to scream rigged or anything like that, but man, the schedule makers really don't do us any favors, sending us to Buffalo at the end of the year. It's probably going to be friggin' cold as hell. And yeah.
Yeah. It's always Buffalo or New England where we go to get our ass kicked. And it's funny, you're mentioning the crossover between, the Jets and the Titans. You ever sit around and think to yourself, like, if you were a Titans fan, how would you feel getting all these Giants and Jets? You're probably thinking in yourself, like, man, those teams stink. Why the hell would I want them to come on my team?
You know what? Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know how I would feel if I was a Titans fan. Probably mainly because I wouldn't be one. But
no, but the way that the schedule is set up, especially what's up, Nate? Especially the way that the schedule is set up, the first 5 games. And you were mentioning Green Bay, how they didn't do I seen this guy Nick Shine, he's making the right. Yes, I'm making the right. I also work for Jake, so it's like Jets is coming out of my freaking ears. But if you look at the Green Bay Packers, right? You talked about how they played without Micah. And they lost Romeo Doubs. And, you had a disappointing season for Marcus Golden last year, his rookie season. It's not out of the realm that the team starts 3-2. I think that that's a realistic goal, especially if you think that we have massively upgraded from a personnel standpoint and you have faith that Glenn is going to be able to get it together with all the overtures of the staff. I think that, and I don't want to sound, too overly optimistic. I feel like anytime we start doing that, we set ourselves up for disappointment. But I don't think it's impossible for this team to win anywhere from 7 to 9 games if we think that they have improved as much as we think they did.
Yeah, and I mean, I try not to get too far ahead of myself, but dude, at the end of the day, I mean, aside from the draft picks, which we're all talking about right now, but even more so, like our free agents have really quickly become like afterthoughts. But Onyemata and Enigbari and Osai and those guys, compared to having Michael Clements and McGregor and Watts. Like, that's going to be such a huge improvement. And, you know, even with the wide receiver room now, you know, having Cooper there, bringing in Tim Patrick, you know, another year for AD Mitchell, having Sadiq and Taylor, like there are a lot of things in place that would make you think we would be successful. But in the past, like, dude, like if Garrett Wilson went down, we're like, oh God, we got nothing at receiver behind him. We got Alan Lazard, you know, awful. But now we actually have some quality depth. And so I think that's going to pay huge dividends going into this season. Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to it. Like, I really think that they're going to turn this thing around. I think we're going to look back and say, yeah, that's the year that it all kind of started to change. So fingers crossed, man. I'm really hoping that this thing, it gives us a much different result. But all along, I've said there's going to be some teams that you don't expect us to beat that I think we're going to beat. For me personally, one of those games is Chicago. Like, you know, right now, everybody's jumping on the Caleb Williams bandwagon and talking about Ben Johnson and how, dude, I would love to just go in there and smack them down. Don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that's one of the ones that I really got circled. And for me, it's a little bit personal because one of my closest friends that we've been friends almost our entire lives, he's got two favorite football teams. And if you're thinking, oh, that's gay, yeah, it is. I hate that shit. And if the Buccaneers are doing good, he's a Buccaneers fan because I live here in Tampa. But then if the Bears are doing good, well, he's a Bears fan because he grew up as a kid just outside of Chicago. And it's like, dude, especially two NFC teams, you can't switch back and forth like that. And like, that's something a little kid would do, you know, like pick a team and stick with it. Like, dude, I'm a Jets fan, and it doesn't matter if you know, we're 10-7 or if we're, you know, 2-15, I'm still a fucking Jets fan, period. I don't waver. I don't change. So that whole shit to me, it just fucking irritates me. And because, you know, the Bears are right now, they're his team anyway. You know, a season from now that could change again. But just for that reason alone, I just want to fucking punch them right in the mouth.
Yeah, I can't stand that because you don't really feel the heartbreak. You know, if you have two teams, it's like, oh, if my team loses over here, it's okay because I have this other team. But one more point I want to get off before I head out is, I don't think people really take into consideration how much of an upgrade Geno Smith is over Justin Fields. Now, I know Geno isn't Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. He's not one of these guys. But he can complete a pass. And prior to him going to the Raiders, where their O-line was atrocious, he really only had Bowers to throw the ball to, and Gentry was useless without, you know, with the state of the O-line that they had. You know, we have two bookend tackles, multiple receiving options that he could throw the ball to, and a high-quality running back. I think if we just get anywhere from 20th to, let's just say, 17th ranked quarterback play this year, I think that'll be a huge difference maker because Fields couldn't even complete a pass last year. I don't think people factor that in as much as they probably should.
Oh, yeah. Geno will get the ball out. He'll get the ball out on time. And look, we've seen him be successful when he's got the pieces around him, and he will have that here. And, you know, I know we got all our draft picks and stuff that we're excited about, but dude, it's crazy. Like, people are already anointing Omar Cooper wide receiver too. And I'm here to say, man, do not sleep on Adonai Mitchell. Okay. My predictions for him for the year, 86 catches, 843 yards, 8 touchdowns. And I look for that kind of season. Dude, I mean, his first game here was a rough one. He had some drops, but there were also a lot of really bad passes that came out late or behind the receivers. You know, he had to deal with some awful quarterback play, but dude, he got traded, came in, was learning a brand new system, and we saw it. He was going up against number one corners, and he could get open at will. So now with Garrett back healthy to attract attention and him going against number two corners, like I really expect a big year out of Mitchell. And I was very high on him coming out of college. I'm really glad he got a second chance, and it's with us. So that's a guy that I'm really looking forward to this year.
Hey, man. Well, I'm going to head out, Rick, man. Enjoy the rest of the show. Have a good one, brother.
All right, man. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate you, bro. And you will be entered into our May giveaway, as all callers are for the remainder of the month. So appreciate you calling in. Dude, appreciate everybody. Thank you all for joining me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this show, and it was something a little bit different and something that maybe, you know, you don't get on the other channels. So I hope you guys all enjoyed the guest and enjoyed what we had to do here tonight. And real quick before I go, we do have new Rickie New York Live fan shirts for our draft picks. We have our David Bailey shirt. We have our D'Angelo Pons shirt. And now we also have an Omar Cooper shirt as well. So anybody interested in any of those, reach out to me. I'll get one right out to you. Once again, as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Appreciate you. And I will be back on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. So I look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you. And as always, go Jets.
Thank you. Good night. We love you all.